get started. We're started. It says we're started. It says the live stream, the live English lesson has begun. Let me just test to make sure everything is working. Sometimes I'm a little shocked because it starts right away, and sometimes it takes like 30 seconds before it starts. But today it looks like it got started right away. So there we go. We have started. The lesson has begun. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about cold and snowy weather. If you are wondering why my lessons are all about snow and cleaning the driveway and cold weather, it's because it's really, really cold here. It's very, very snowy and it's very wintry. You saw that probably in my last video. Last night was the coldest night of the year. It was minus 25 degrees Celsius. Right now, it is 8:30 a.m. and outside it is minus 21 degrees Celsius. So I'm not super excited about going outside today. I'm sure it's going to be quite cold. But that just was the source of the idea for a lesson on cold and snowy weather. So once again, in this lesson, I'll teach you some words and phrases that we use to talk about cold and snowy weather. And I hope they are things, words and phrases that maybe you don't know and they're going to be new, or maybe you do know and it's good to do a review. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about cold and snowy weather. Well, hey, cold and snowy weather, that is the theme. I feel like I look different. Well, I think my light is different. I think that's what it is. Let me just adjust something here. I was cleaning my room, and I know I moved my really big light. I know you guys can't see me. I'm off to the side. I am moving my really big light. I don't know how to turn this. Take this. Give me 1 second here. That's normally how that light is positioned. Here we go. There. I'm doing things on the fly here. In English, when you do something on the fly, it means you do it without really having a plan for what you're doing. But we're here for an English lesson about cold and snowy weather. Hello to Ismail, Mr. Fisheri. I know in the chat, I also saw Unabi, Bunny, Silly Smart, Mr. Fisheri, Freddie Wolf, Pedro, Key Park. If I scroll back, I'm pretty sure Judith is here, Aerosmith 77, Wanda Prado, Eureka. If you are watching this at 8:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is live. I'm literally sitting in my office living room doing a live English lesson for you. So welcome to the lesson. Welcome to the class. If you've never been here before, oh, hi to Eva as well from Poland. Very good. -8. Oh, that's very balmy and warm compared to here. Sai Sandy says, hi, Bob. Today your room looks brighter. Yeah, it's slowly getting cleaned up a bit more. Oh, and the curtain is slightly open there. Maybe that's adding a little bit of light to the room. We'll see. Anyways, if you've never been to one of these lessons, here's what will happen. I will teach some words and phrases for 10 minutes. Then I will take 10 minutes to answer questions from you. If you look in the chat or in the description below, there is a link and you can submit a question. I will happily put it on the screen and answer it. And then I will teach the lesson again for 10 minutes, questions for 10 minutes, teach again for 10, questions for 10, and then the hour will be up. So if you have a question, that's where you would ask it. Kitang says, oh my, it's the real Bob. Yes. And then Freddie says, Bob, I guess that the waterfall is frozen, isn't it? So Niagara Falls, I haven't been there, but it is close to being frozen over. I don't know what that looks like. I'm sure the water is still running, but there's probably lots of ice. Mr. Fisheri, what about the front of you, Bob? Is it clean there? It's relatively clean. Not as clean as I would like it to be, but it is certainly getting there. If you don't know what Hafiez, Mr. Fisheri, is referring to, I've been cleaning my room lately. I brought an appropriate mug for a lesson about cold and snowy weather as well. Okay, enough talking. Let's get started. Here we go. I think I've said everything I normally have to say. It's freezing. This is a phrase that you will hear very often in a country like Canada if you are in one of the colder provinces. When we say it's freezing, we mean it's really, really cold. So a phrase for extreme cold. It's obvious that when it's below zero, water will freeze. We know that. But we've taken the word freezing and we've turned it into a description of really cold weather. So Jen might go outside and come in and say, oh, it's freezing out there. I didn't realize how cold it was going to be. We regularly go out to start our cars so they warm up a bit. And then when you come in, you say, oh, it's freezing out there. Whew, it is so cold. So it's freezing, a phrase that we use to describe extremely cold weather. Like if it was -2 Celsius, I wouldn't say it's freezing. If it's -10 Celsius, I would probably say it's freezing. So one of the reasons I'm doing this lesson is that we have been hearing about a polar vortex. It's a pretty complex description. I think it was even mentioned in last week's lesson by Mode Ags. A polar vortex is when the cold air from the Arctic moves down and we are kind of in Arctic weather. So it's a mass of very cold air from the Arctic. So normally we are in an area where the air is relatively cold, like normal temperature would be -5, but now the bitter cold Arctic air is now hitting us. And so it is a lot colder. So they call this a polar vortex. So it's when a mass of very cold air from the Arctic moves over top of us. And that's when it gets super, super cold. Layers. When it is this cold, it is important that you dress in layers. If you see this gentleman here, it looks like he has a blue. If you just look right here, you can see there's a little bit of blue. He probably has a blue t-shirt. Over top of that, he probably has a black long sleeve t-shirt. And then on top of that, he has a red sweater. And then on top of that, he has a winter coat. So he's probably wearing 4 layers. He might even be wearing 5 layers. This is very common. When you dress in layers, multiple pieces of clothing worn together for warmth, the layers trap a little bit of air between each layer, and that helps you stay warm. It's kind of like your own personal insulation. So when I went outside the other day, I had 3 layers on my legs. I had 4 or 5 layers on my upper body. And then I even had a winter hat, a hood, and then another hood the other day. If you saw my members only video, you would have seen me in many, many layers. Sledding, tubing, tobogganing. In the winter, hills get covered with snow, and snow can be slippery. That means it's easy to slide on it. So as a kid, it's pretty common to go sledding, is sliding downhill on a sled over snow. So gravity pulls you down and the snow is very slippery and allows you to slide. Tubing is similar, sliding down a snow-covered hill on a tube. This is actually, originally we would just use inner tubes from car tires or tractor tires. Those actually slide on the snow very, very well. This is a special made tube just for going down a hill. The benefit of tubing is that the inner tube or tube is soft and bouncy, because when you're going down on a sled, it can be very rough and you're bouncing around. So when you're on a tube, it's a little more of a comfortable ride, but can also be pretty fast. And then tobogganing, sliding down a snow-covered hill on a long, flat sled called a toboggan. This is less common now. Less people have wooden toboggans. It's kind of a traditional type of sled. When I was a child, we did have a toboggan and all of us could fit on it. So all 5 of us, my 2 brothers and 2 sisters, would all go on the toboggan and then slide down the hill. This is not a picture of us. This is some random photo. But if you want to enjoy winter, you would wear lots of layers, then go outside and maybe go sledding or tubing or tobogganing. All very fun activities when it's very, very cold. I don't use these. But tire chains are metal chains put on tires for traction on snow and ice. In my area of Canada, it usually doesn't get this bad. And chains are often used in areas where you might have to drive up or down a hill or mountain regularly. But I don't know anyone in my area that uses tire chains, but they will definitely give you good traction. So tire chains are metal chains put on tires for traction on snow and ice. If you watch the YouTube channel Martin Doulard, I don't know if you've ever watched it. He lives up in the mountains in Italy, and he regularly puts tire chains on his car in order to drive down the mountain or back up the mountain. So maybe if you search for Martin Doulard, Doolaard, he's a Dutch guy that lives in Italy, and he's kind of rebuilding this old house, and he's building a shop. It's pretty interesting. Anyways, I'll put a link in the description or in the comment below when I'm done. Frostbite. So extreme cold is very, very dangerous. When you go out when it's -10 or -15 or -20, it starts to become very important that you don't have your skin exposed to the cold air. You must wear gloves, and you might even need to wear what's called a ski mask, where only your eyes and mouth show, because otherwise you might get frostbite, injury to skin caused by extreme cold. And they'll even tell you how long it's safe to be outside with your skin exposed. They might say, don't stay outside for longer than 5 minutes, or you risk getting frostbite. So frostbite is when your skin actually freezes. So it's very important. Right now it's -21. I think it was earlier. It's very important that I wear gloves when I go outside. I will also wear a winter hat, but if I'm just running to my car, I might not. But frostbite, injury to skin caused by extreme cold. To shiver. So it's pretty common to shiver when it's cold. It means to shake because you are cold. And you might be aware of this if you go swimming somewhere where the water is cold. When you come out, you might be shivering. So it's where your body tries to warm itself up by making you shake. So to shiver, to shake because you are cold. Interestingly, I don't often shiver when I'm outside in the cold. I often shiver when I come back in and take off my layers. Sometimes it's not very warm in the house, or sometimes you get, like, when you get a lot of snow on your gloves and in your gloves, it can melt. And so your hands can get wet in cold weather, and then you will be very, very cold and you will shiver a lot. Hey, let's look at some questions before I get going too far along on this. I did want to say hi to Mr. Fisher. He says, shiver me timbers, a common pirate thing to say. Brent is here as well. Brent's experiencing pretty much the same weather as me. He might even have a bit more snow. Good to see you, Brent. I know a big storm came through the United States, and I think it went right over Brent, but it just clipped us. Like, we got some of it, but Brent, I think, got the brunt of it. So I know I saw a video of him walking in his neighborhood at night. It looked pretty snowy. And yeah, sorry, Brent, for speaking in Celsius, although I think you're bilingual when it comes to temperatures. Let's see. From Johnny Payne, what do I need to learn English in your hand? Or maybe you're asking, what do you need to learn English from me? So I can't help you with everything, but there are a lot of videos that you can use to learn words and phrases, and that you can use to do some shadowing, or that you can use to have lots of comprehensible input. From Judith. Hi, Bob. I hope it's not an outside live stream. How many hours do you stay work outside in the snow? Thanks. So when it is -20, it sounds crazy, but if you are dressed appropriately, you can be outside working for an hour or two. But you probably then want to come in and warm up, and then maybe go back outside again. If I was someone who had to work outside, I would probably only work an 8-hour day today. And I would probably only actually be outside for about 5 or 6 hours. So let's say I was a construction worker. I would probably work for an hour and a half, and then I would probably sit in my truck and have a cup of hot chocolate. And then I would probably work for an hour or an hour and a half and then warm up again. It's important to not wear too many layers. It's interesting. You don't want to wear so many clothes that you sweat. Sweating is dangerous in very cold weather. And so that's another good reason to wear layers, because you can take a layer off if you're getting warm. Next one says, love you from Gandu, India. No, thank you very much for the kind words. Another question from Judith. Hi, Bob. Would you like to go to the Grand Canyon or Flagstaff around this time? It is cold but beautiful. Flagstaff is a lovely town. I have always enjoyed visiting and living in very cold climates. So any place that's cold, I would definitely visit. From Judith. Hi, Bob. Have you ever had a drink get frozen in the cup in the winter? Which year? Thanks. I have broken water bottles and, travel mugs by leaving them in the vehicle. So what's interesting with water or coffee or any kind of drink is when it freezes, it expands. And so if you leave, if you have a nice water bottle that you take to the gym and you leave it in your car overnight right now in this kind of weather, it will most likely be cracked and broken in the morning. So don't do that. Unibi, hi, Mr. Bob. Glad to see you again. In my language, we use an expression dressed like a cabbage about multi-layering clothes. Do you have any similar in English? Thanks. Possibly like layers like an onion, but it's not too common. It's just very common to say, make sure you dress in layers. Brent says Celsius makes more sense. The rest of the world uses it, but in the US, we only use Fahrenheit. I'm not sure why. Yeah, and then Canadians like me who live close to the border, we had to learn both. Freddie says, when you are shivering, you have goosebumps. You can, yes. Little bumps on your skin. Let's see. Next question from Remix 5. What does the expression, it's chilly outside, mean? It's chilly. So it's just as it is. So it is chilly. And we use the word chilly. So what I'm going to say is all approximate. If it is between 1 degree and 10 degrees, I might say it's chilly. If it's between 0 degrees and -10, I might say it's cold or very cold. If it's -7 or lower, I'll probably say it's freezing. They're just different ways to talk about the weather. From Elena, hello, Bob. In the country I grew up, every driver had to replace summer and winter tires. Don't you have such in Canada? Do you use just these chains on the probably car? So we use winter tires in Canada. We call them winter tires or snow tires. I will talk about them. I have a slide that I'll look at in a moment. That is what 90% or more of the people do. If you live in northern Canada, or if you live somewhere where it is mountainous in Canada, then you might use tire chains or snow chains on your car. But it's pretty rare in this area, and it's very common to have winter tires. In fact, I think in the province of Quebec, it's required by law to have those. From Ismail, hello, Bob. What's a simple everyday sentence you'd use with accumulate? Thanks. So you might say the snow is starting to accumulate, but a more common word is to say accumulation. There's a lot of accumulation, which means the snow is getting deeper. And I do actually have a slide for that one. Yes, I do. So we would probably say it's really starting to get deep out there. The snow is getting deep. There's a lot of accumulation. Let's see here. From Pedro, hi, Bob. Doesn't the cold affect the animals? How do you deal with that thing? So interestingly enough, most animals that farmers have in Canada will adapt to the cold. So we have farm cats who live in the barn, and they have a nice, warm, comfy area to sleep at night. It's not heated, but there's no wind or draft, and there's lots of straw and hay for them. And the cats all sleep and keep each other warm. But they're also much furrier now than they are in the summer. The goats are much furrier now. And the chickens, they fluff up their feathers, and that helps them stay warm as well. And another thing that's very important is animals need time to adapt. So our dog Walter has not really adapted to the cold. So honestly, he's been in the house a lot lately, sleeping in the garage or in the entranceway. From Mohammed, there are 3 terms that share the same pronunciation but have different meanings. How can they be distinguished in the discussion? So you need to learn to look at the context of the conversation. If I say, for instance, oh, I went walking outside today and it's deep. I haven't really talked about what's deep, but because it's winter, you'll know I'm talking about snow, that the snow is deep. If I'm at the beach and I say, oh, if you walk out, wow, it's really deep, you know that I'm talking about the ocean. So sometimes it's just important to make sure you know the context of the sentence or what's being talked about. From Unsel, hi, Mr. Bob. Do you remember a winter that really stood out to you because it was extremely cold or had unusually heavy snowfall? Thanks. Who is this guy again? Maybe I can't remember his name. It's from the movie Frozen, right? I don't have any specific memories, but what I do remember is I have good memories of every winter where we had lots of snow, because when you have lots of snow, it's fun to play outside with your kids. If you have a winter where there isn't snow, there's not a lot to do outside in the winter. So as a parent, when my kids were little, we would go sledding, we would build snow forts, we would have snowball fights, we would sometimes even go skating because it was nice and cold outside. But anyways, I'll get to back to the questions in 10 minutes. I'm going to get back to the lesson now. To brave the cold. So this is a pretty interesting phrase. To be brave means to have courage. It means to do something even though it's hard. And we often use the phrase to brave the cold to talk about when you go outside despite very cold weather. If you have a dog, you have to brave the cold and take the dog for a walk. You probably don't want to go outside, but the dog has to go outside every day, 2 or 3 times, to go for a walk, to go to the bathroom. So you need to brave the cold. If I look outside and think it's really cold, I still have to brave the cold and go to work. Like, I can't just stay home because it's cold. I need to have courage. I need to decide that I'm going to go out and I'm going to do what I need to do. To be snowed in. When you're snowed in, it means you are unable to leave because of heavy snow. Jen and I were a little bit snowed in 3 times in the past week and a half. It wasn't anything major. Within an hour, I could clear the driveway and we were able to leave. But if it had kept snowing for days, eventually it becomes very difficult to get out. We might call that a blizzard, where the snow just keeps getting deeper and you can't keep the driveway clear. But to be snowed in, unable to leave because of heavy snow. Wind chill. So this is an interesting effect. It means feeling colder than it is because of the wind. And they'll actually give this a number. In fact, if I look at the weather for today, let me pull it up. So it's minus 23 in the town close to me, high of minus 12 today. The wind chill will make it feel like minus 22. So did you hear that? It's going to be a high of minus 12, but because of the wind, it will feel like minus 22. So that's the wind chill or the wind chill effect. Wind always makes it feel colder than it is. So if I go outside on a day where this is going to sound kind of funny. If it was minus 22 with no wind and the sun was shining, that is actually a beautiful day to be outside. If it was minus 10, so 12 degrees warmer, but the winds were blowing at 50 or 60 kilometers an hour. That would be unbearable. You would not want to be outside for very long. If you are a member of the channel, you'll see I did a few members only videos. I think one's called It's Cold. The other one just says very, very cold. Both of those, it's mostly because of the wind. You can stay pretty warm outside when there is no wind. It can be very, very cold and you can stay pretty warm. Cold snap, sudden cold weather. So this is something that can describe two things in my mind. It can be when it goes from like 1 degree to -10 overnight. It's a cold snap. But you could also say, oh, we're going to have a 3-day cold snap where it's going to be below -20 every day. So it simply means a sudden change in weather. We are not really in a cold snap right now. It's just cold every day, day after day. So I would use, instead I would just say it's freezing or it's very, very cold. Whiteout. When snow and wind make it hard to see, we usually use this term when we're talking about driving in bad weather. So a whiteout is when either it's snowing or drifting. Drifting snow is when the wind picks the snow up, or usually both. And there's so much snow that it's very difficult to see. It's very dangerous to drive when there are whiteout conditions. The other day, it was snowing and the wind was blowing and picking up snow, and we couldn't see the barn from the house. So those of you that are familiar with my property, because we were in whiteout conditions, it is not a good idea to drive when snow and wind make it hard to see. This is actually not too bad. I've driven in weather like this, but there are times where I have pulled over or pulled into a parking lot, or even just gone to a restaurant, even though I wasn't hungry, because the whiteouts were so bad that it was dangerous to drive. Sometimes you just take a break and you check the day. Drifting. These kind of look the same, but in this picture, drifting is snow from the ground lifted by the wind. So you see these little streaks of snow going across the pavement. That is what we would consider drifting snow. That snow is not coming from the sky. That snow is already on the ground, and the wind has picked it up and started to move it around. So in the winter, when it is very windy, there's a lot of drifting. Snow from the ground lifted by the wind, and then it often gets deposited somewhere else, usually in a snowdrift. So let me get this picture a little bit bigger for you. You can see here that this fence has caused the snow to pile up. Let me explain this a little bit. When wind picks up snow, when there is drifting, if there is something like a fence, when the wind hits it, the snow falls. So if you have a fence or a car, or something outside where the snow is drifting, so it's being carried by the wind, and then when the wind has to go around, for some reason the snow will fall. Actually, it usually falls on the other side, so it gets lifted over and then it piles. So in this picture, the wind was coming with this. The wind was coming this way, and as it went over the fence, it dropped its snow and caused a snowdrift, a pile of snow made by the wind. So on a day when there is drifting, you will start to see snowdrifts form, piles of snow made by the wind. And fun to play in if you're a kid. Accumulation. So this person has come outside and they are looking at their vehicle and noticing it is covered with snow. There has been a lot of accumulation, which is the amount of snow that has built up. When it's snowing and the snow lands, it doesn't go away like rain. It just starts to pile up. It starts to accumulate. And so they might say something like this on the weather: 10 to 15 centimeters of accumulation today. That means we're going to get this much snow or this much snow. It's going to land. It's going to pile up on the ground. It's going to result in a lot of accumulation. Snow day. This is my favorite kind of day in the winter. A snow day is a day when school is canceled because of snow. So in places like Canada and in some of the northern US states where there is lots of snow, sometimes they decide it's just too dangerous to drive. People usually still go to work, but children are usually kept at home. So they make a decision that it's going to be a snow day. As a teacher, the night before, you think it might be a snow day because you don't know. And you have to get up early and you have to check on the internet. And at 6:30 a.m., it might say snow day today. And then everyone gets to stay home, including the teachers, which is one of the great perks of being a teacher, I think, is that you have snow days. Very, very fun, very, very enjoyable. You can have a nap. You can do some schoolwork. I do that sometimes from home, but it's like a free day off in the middle of the winter. Very, very fun. Hey, I'm going to get back to questions, but I'm going to turn on members only chat. Give me a moment here and I will turn that on. If you are one of the 240 people watching, stick around because the lesson will continue in just a moment. Members only chat is a time where people who are members of the channel get to ask questions directly in the chat, and it's very, very enjoyable. It's if your name is in green, then obviously you are a member. And also I think I forgot to do this last week, but I want to give away a free membership every week. So let's do that. Here we go. I'm trying to find the right button here. This usually works flawlessly and someone will get a free membership. Brent says we might have another snow day on Monday. Very nice. Very cool. Oh, lots of chatting going on. Oh, Know That's here. Hi, Know That. Beautiful Day. That reminds me of the song by U2. That's a fun song. I sometimes listen to that song when I don't feel like going to work because every day is a beautiful day, in my opinion. You just have to figure out why. So Diego has received a gift membership from me. Happy gift membership, Diego. There you go. I hope that you enjoy it. Let me get a question on the screen and I will answer the questions from the chat as well. From Know That. Hello, Bob. When the temperature drops far below zero, do you often have trouble starting your car in the morning? If so, is there anything you do to prevent it? Thanks, Bob. That's funny you should ask. My newer car, it's actually 10 years old, but it's new to us, we would say. It wouldn't start the other day. And so we had to get a new battery installed. Often, if you live in a winter climate, you find out that your battery needs to be replaced in the winter. It's the most common season to find out that your battery is weak. So the battery in the car, it wouldn't start the car. It just it turned over and then it just went click, click, click. I was able to charge the battery overnight, but I did end up getting it replaced. I would have done it myself, but if you want to know why I didn't, you should go on YouTube and search for replacing battery in Ford Escape. You have to take the windshield wipers off. There's a whole housing that comes off. I couldn't even find the battery when I went to charge it. So I do like the car, but wow, bad battery placement. Okay, from the chat, we have Know That. Hey, Bob, what are your plans for today and the weekend? I really hope the weather forecast will spare you from cleaning the driveway. I will be cleaning the driveway. It's supposed to snow again. I am going to the gym later today. This weekend, mostly I'm focusing on paperwork for the YouTube business and the farm. We have to get our taxes done in a couple months. I'm trying to get ahead of that. So when it is cold outside, it's a great time to get work done inside, in my opinion. Let's see, from Freddie Wolf. It's kind of crazy. You live more south than where I live in France, and you have so much more snow than we have. We don't have experienced an Arctic vortex yet. I hope we'll be spared of it though. So there's actually 3 reasons why that's happening, Freddie. One is France and England receive warm weather from the Atlantic Ocean. I think it comes up from the Caribbean, crosses the Atlantic. So your climate is warmer than ours. The second thing that happens that's unique to me is the Great Lakes on every side of me don't always freeze in the winter. So cold wind can pick up moisture from the lakes, and then it forms snow and lands on the ground. And then what was my last reason? I can't remember what my last reason was. It's just colder here. That's my last reason. But yeah, Europe experiences slightly warmer weather because of the ocean. Hafiez says to Brent, With or Without You by them, mostly because it was a soundtrack used in Friends. Knew the song from there. You too. I can live with or without you. Yeah, I'm not going to sing. No, that says and Brent says, yeah, good one. No, that says, by the way, your study workplace looks great, nice and tidy, I'd say. Yes, and getting tidier by the day. Oh, you can't quite see it, but Mini Bob has like a toy tractor there now that I found when I was cleaning up from when I was a child. Key Park. It was extremely cold here last week, so that the entrance guard of my apartment building didn't work. Yeah, it would be hard to work outside in extreme cold. Wanda says, hi, Teacher Bob. In which temperature do the authorities recommend people to stay at home? Thanks a lot. So, minus 25, no. Like, people would still go to work. If it was minus 35 or they would start to, I think school would be closed if it was minus 40. I wonder what Brent has to say on that. We don't have specific temperatures because it depends on the wind. Again, if it was minus 32 and sunny and no wind, you could easily be outside you could wait for the bus and get on the bus. It'd be cold, but if it was minus 35, minus 40 with some wind, I think they would close schools. But what I will say is this, if the weather's bad, the police will recommend that people stay home quite quickly. If the roads are bad, they'll say don't drive unless you have to go to work. Don't drive if you're just going to visit your friend or something like that. Mr. Fischeri, tobogganing. There was another word that I was thinking of when the tobogganing slide came on. It was portaging. I wrongly conflate the meaning of the two words. Portaging is when you get to a spot in your canoe or boat and you can't go on the water, so you carry your boat around. You do a portage. Remix says, I got a doubt. If it's chilly makes reference to low temperature, then why people use it regularly? Chill as a kind of expression. Yeah, so there's a couple different variations here. If I go in someone's house in the summer and it's air conditioned and they have it set to a really low temperature, I could say it's chilly in here. But I could also just sit on the couch and chill, which means to relax. So yeah, it has a couple of different meanings. And you can also eat chili. You can make a pot of chili and eat it. From Eva, do you have winter break in Canadian schools? Mine has just started. We do not. We have Christmas break, and then we have spring break in April. Bridget says, I have to clean the driveway too for several, but only by hand. Oh, I feel bad for you. If I lived close, I would come and do it with the tractor, Bridget. Freddie says, I should buy a battery booster so you would be to start the engine even though the battery is dead. Yeah, so I do have 2 chargers, but I don't have a boosting charger. I should probably get one of those. You're probably talking about those little packs that you can use to boost and start your car. Know that. A more personal question, Bob. Are you someone who feels or notices changes in the weather or temperature before they actually happen? Only if you don't mind sharing, of course. So I twisted my ankle when I was a kid. A cow fell on it. I think I've told that story before. And sometimes my ankle will hurt. I'm wondering if my collarbone, as I get older, will become a predictor of weather as well, where you can feel that the weather is going to change. But normally, no. Normally, I just read the forecast. Mr. Fischeri, I can't imagine minus 40 C. Wow. I've experienced it. I have been ice fishing in Northern Ontario where it's gotten close to that. And I've also, when I lived in Quebec, experienced very cold weather. You don't want to be out in that. Cy Sandy, hi Bob. In this cold weather, do you still collect eggs from the chickens on the farm? Thank you. Yes, the chicken coop is well insulated. There are no drafts, and the chickens have a kind of a warmer area to be in, and we still get eggs. Brent said, it happened twice in my career when school was canceled because of the cold, but both times were because the buses would not start. Yeah, that's the other problem. So if you aren't familiar with it, Gas engines usually start okay in the winter. Diesel engines, not so much. So if you have a truck or bus or tractor, like in my video, you have to have it plugged in to keep it warm. And even then, if it's minus 40, challenging to start. Freddie Wolf, if you were teaching at school while it's snowing a lot, would you have facilities to stay overnight if you couldn't drive home? We have sent the kids home before based on the forecast. So that's only happened twice in my career, where all of the sudden at lunch, they say, the buses are coming, the weather is getting worse, we're sending everybody home. But yeah, we could stay overnight, but I wouldn't want to be the teacher in charge because, let me see, what would be the best English expression? It would be a zoo. So a zoo is a place where they keep animals, but we also use that to describe a situation where kids are crazy. Let's see here. Let me just scroll back to make sure I haven't missed anything. Which temperature? Yes, good. The battery's dead. And then from Brent, Freddie Wolf. Yeah, that was the last one. Okay. You have no chill, says Happy is. Brent says, we don't have an official temperature to close school either. No. And you know, it would have to be temperature and wind. That, to me, that would be the two things. Manuel says, whatever, Bob. I've been watching your videos this week. That comes to an end. They are absolutely impressive. I'm used to 20, 24 degrees the whole year. It was freezing. Yes. I always feel for people in southern climates when some of them, when they watch my videos, they make a comment how cold they are. It's like the videos about food. Brent says, my district would cancel school beforehand to be on the safe side. Yes, that's more common, Freddie, what Brent is saying, where I mean, there is a forecast. Sometimes we have a snow day and you're like, well, there was no real reason to have that one. But, and then Brent says, I have the best brother. He plows my driveway for me, saves me hours and hours of work each winter. Yes, I would imagine that is very, very nice. No, that says, with the mini tractor so close to little Bob, you have to be careful that he doesn't go astray with it. Yeah, he doesn't quite, he's not quite the right, he is kind of the right size, isn't he? Yeah, too bad he's not bendable. He could sit on there. Brett says, a cow fell on your ankle. Now that's a new one. Yeah, I still remember exactly where it happened. I was sitting on the top of a fence with my leg kind of in, and then a cow was going by and it fell and I got pinned and I was hanging upside. I should tell the story sometime. What if a calf fell on Bob's calf? Yeah. No, that says Bob's mentioned the story a few times, but he's never explained the whole story. That's for a future date. Hey, let's get back to the lesson here. I do have to go to work today, so I should make sure I get the lesson done. Let me have a sip of water. Let me turn off members only chat. Hey, if you're one of the 224 people watching, don't forget to click the subscribe button somewhere. You will get notified when a new lesson comes out. And thank you so much to all of you who are members. It's very fun to have members and to be able to chat. And it's fun to make the Wednesdays with Bob video for you as well. Brent's, I'll do it as a members video. Yeah. Cause I can even reenact it a little bit. Not the cow part, but where I was sitting. Okay. There are a lot of questions still, but we'll get to those later. Where are we at? Snow day. Okay. Snowplow. So a snowplow is a vehicle that pushes snow off roads. Should say off the roads, but off roads. This is a large truck with a blade on the front. It actually is a dump truck usually in my area. So the back of the truck is usually filled with sand or a mixture of salt and sand or salt. And then the front has a blade. So as they push the snow off the road, a little trickle of salt and sand or sand falls and there's a spinner and it spreads it out. So you will often see the snowplow removing snow, but also salting or sanding the road to make it safer. Snowplows come in all different shapes and sizes, but in my area, the ones that they use on the roads look exactly like this. Really, really big with a really big blade in the front. So salt and sand. So I just mentioned salt and sand. This is a common sight in the winter when they can get down to the pavement. So if you salt and sand are materials spread to improve traction on icy surfaces. So salt will melt ice and sand will give you traction. And so the two materials are often used in the winter to melt the ice on the roads and to give traction. The problem is salt doesn't really melt snow that well. Like salt will melt ice, but it doesn't really melt snow that well. So we usually get to a point where you can't see the pavement and they're just putting down a lot of sand in order to, the snow's less slippery when there's some sand mixed in it. A snow shovel. So a tool used to move snow by hand, and this is a special kind of shovel. It's usually quite big and wide. It's usually quite light because it's made out of plastic. Snow isn't very heavy. It's not as heavy as dirt. So when you use a shovel in dirt, the shovel needs to be made out of metal. But when you're shoveling snow, you can use a plastic shovel. And you use that to move snow by hand, which is how many people clear their driveways. An ice scraper is a tool used to remove ice from car windows. So it's quite common in the winter. When you drive your car, you have heat inside. And then when you stop driving, the snow lands on the windows, but eventually it melts and freezes because your car is still warm. So the next morning, often there will be ice and you have to use an ice scraper to remove ice from car windows. And then we also have what is called a snow brush. It's quite common if you look at this snow brush, which is used to clear snow from a vehicle, it actually has a little ice scraper on the end, a little green ice scraper. It's actually more common to have an ice scraper at one end and then the brush at the other. That's how our snow brushes look. They have an ice scraper on the end of the handle and a brush on the other end, but used to clear snow from a vehicle. And I think you've seen me do this in one or two videos at least. Donuts, this is something you should never do. Spinning a car in circles on snow or ice. So if you have a rear wheel drive car, this is very easy to do. If you have an all-wheel drive car with traction control, this is impossible. If you have a front-wheel drive vehicle, you can do this, but you pretty much need to go in reverse. You're going to have to look up a video to see what this actually looks like. But if you turn really sharp in a parking lot, like if I took my van, which is front-wheel drive, and went backwards with the steering wheel turn, it would whip around. Yeah, you're going to have to watch a video. Don't do this. It's dangerous. I think every teenager in Canada has done donuts at one point in their life, but don't. I cannot condone this behavior. I have done this though before. Donuts, spinning a car in circles on snow or ice. Snow tires. So snow tires are tires designed for better grip in winter conditions. So you'll see this snow tire has two symbols on it. I believe these symbols mean that these tires are designed for driving in snow and that they're designed to have better grip on ice. You can look them up if you want, but generally in a country like Canada, in November or early December, you will put your snow tires on your car. And then in March or April, you will take your snow tires off and put normal tires back on. So snow tires, the rubber is softer and the tread, it's kind of hard to explain, is different. The tread is designed to stay clear of snow, so you always have grip. And the tires are softer so that like a normal tire in the winter gets quite hard, whereas a snow tire is softer. So I'm just laughing at Brent's comment. I like how Bob said, you shouldn't do this. And then he told us exactly how to do this. Yeah, no, don't do donuts. At least, it's the kind of thing where Bob was in Fast and Furious. Okay, let me get back to the lesson. Let me have a sip of water. I'll have to remember to chop this bit out when I when I do the edit. What am I at? 53. I'll remember that. Black ice. This is probably the most dangerous driving condition, is when there is black ice. It's thin, nearly invisible ice on roads. It's actually invisible in my experience. We just had black ice in our area a couple of days ago. There was a major highway that had a stretch where there was black ice, and I think 17 cars went in the ditch. I don't even know if people hit each other. I think they just spun out and went in the ditch. But black ice looks like pavement. That's what makes it dangerous. You're driving and it looks like a normal road, but there's a very thin layer of ice on it. So we call it black ice because pavement is black and the ice is very, very thin. And so you have a situation where it looks very safe to drive, but it's not safe to drive. Not good at all. A snow squall and flurries. Let me explain the difference between these two. A snow squall is a sudden intense burst of snow and wind. I'm not sure if I've ever taught the word squall before, but snow squalls are when it looks nice and then all of a sudden it's snowing, and then it looks nice and all of a sudden it's snowing, like a lot of snow and wind. So if they say school is canceled because there are going to be a lot of snow squalls today, that's what it means. It doesn't mean it's going to snow all day. It means that it's going to suddenly snow and then stop and snow and stop. And so the snow squall is the sudden start of snow. And then flurries is just light snow falling for a short time. So snow squalls are very intense. It's a lot. Usually there's a lot of snow drifting and falling, a lot of whiteouts. Whereas flurries is lighter snow falling for a short period of time. When you have snow flurries, it's just like the way I describe it is it's like a Christmas Day snowfall when you have snow flurries. Slick. When you say it is slick, it means it is very, very slippery. So you can see this person has definitely been sliding a little bit. We would say it's slippery. We would say it's slick. We would say the roads are really slick today. The other day I had to drive to town on a day when the weather wasn't great. And when I came home, I said, oh, the roads are a bit slick. So it means they've probably put salt and sand down, but it's still, there's too much snow and packed snow, and it's still somewhat slippery. So slick, very slippery roads. And to spin, tires slipping without traction. I had a better picture of this, but I couldn't use it because it was a copyrighted picture. But this picture, if you can see, the tire is spinning. It's turning, but the car is not moving. So when your tires spin, it means you're slipping and you have no traction. This happens to people a lot in the winter if they don't have snow tires. You will spin your tires, and then you might have to get someone to push you out. When the snow is really deep, sometimes people try to drive through it and then they get stuck and their tires will spin and they can't go anywhere. So to spin, tires slipping without traction. Hey, let me do some questions and finish off this lesson. Freddie Wolf says, in France, everyone must clear the snow from the sidewalk in front of their house. Otherwise, in case of injury, they could be prosecuted. That is very common in a lot of cities in Canada as well, where you are responsible for clearing the driveway. Mr. Fisheri says, I think it'd destroy the car window. I've seen videos of it. The boiling water freezes in seconds. Oh, yeah, don't put hot water on your car in the winter. That's not. No, that says black ice is absolutely no fun. Yeah, it is the worst. Pedro says, in such conditions like in Bob's area, the boiling water would freeze in seconds, I guess. Yes, that would definitely happen as well. You've probably seen the videos of people throwing. It needs to be like minus 30, minus 35. And if you throw boiling water in the air, it freezes in the air. It turns to snow. Let me do some questions. Okay. We did that one. Hasham, what is the lowest temperature you have ever seen in your life? I think minus 38. When I lived in Quebec City, there was a real cold stretch. I think it even went to minus 40 at night once or twice, but it's pretty rare. But in my area, minus 30 maybe is the coldest I've seen. Like minus 24, minus 25. That happens once or twice, probably every winter. Jack says, thank you very much. It's good to have you, Bob. No problem. From Hasham, which one is your favorite season, summer or winter? Winter. I much prefer winter. I do not like heat at all, so I like winter a lot. From Know That, speaking of cold weather, Bob, just out of curiosity, how often do ice storms occur in your area? Is it possible to estimate that roughly? Thanks in advance, sir. So a bad ice storm, maybe every 5 years. A small ice storm, usually once every fall and spring. We have a little bit of an ice storm where stuff gets coated in ice. But like a major ice storm where trees and power lines come down, probably once every 5 years. Yeah. Ice storms are worse than snowstorms because they do so much damage. From Judith, hi Bob. I hope you get Walter in for the night. We took Lena, our parrot, to stay out beside the stove so she wouldn't get too cold. How is Walter dealing with the loss of Oscar? I think he's pretty sad. So yes, we do bring him in at night, but we have noticed that he seems a bit sad. So this isn't a question from Christian, but I'm sorry for being late. It's nice to see you again. Well, it's good to have you here, Christian, whether late or not. From Hasham, honey with flat white tea and Bob the Canadian. That's a good combination. Cup of tea and an English lesson. From Unabi, no question, just curious fact. Native Arctic people like Inuit or Eskimo can differ up to 12 different types of snow and have a different word for all of them. Yeah, like we have packing snow and drifting snow. We often add adjectives, and I could see how if you lived in this kind of climate a lot for centuries, you would have specific words for that. Okay. From Unsel, hi again. I saw an ice storm in one of your videos. Have you ever experienced hoarfrost where you live? Thanks. You're awesome. So we don't use that word a lot. Hoarfrost. Yeah. We usually just say frost, but yeah, I have definitely experienced it now that I'm looking at pictures of it. It might be more of a British term. From Unsel, just curious, when I was a child, we used to wear 2 pairs of socks or hand-knitted wool socks in winter. How about you? What kind of socks keep you warm in Canada by? So it is very common if you're going to be outside for a long period of time to wear a thin sock and then a thicker sock over top. Although I think lately, in the last 10 or 15 years, boots have become so well made and so well insulated, people are less likely to wear double socks. But I wore double socks in the winter as a kid quite often. It was pretty common. From my name is Hey Atula. I don't have a question. No problem. Thanks for leaving a comment anyways. From Felipe, hey Bob, what does it feel like being outside with all this snow? In my country, we don't have snow. Thanks. God bless you all. So a couple things happen in this kind of snow. One, you get cold very quickly. And when you breathe in through your nose, it can freeze inside your nose. It's a very strange feeling. If you have a shower and your hair is wet and you walk from the house to your car, your hair will freeze. It's kind of a weird feeling. But other than that, it just feels cold. I don't know how else to describe it. From Jan, hello Teacher Bob. Haven't you thought about painting your silo tower to look like a castle tower with a roof shaped that way? Yeah, maybe someday, but that would cost a bit of money, wouldn't it? From Charles, hi Bob, is there a difference between the New Zealand accent and the American and Canadian accents? What are the differences? I'm really thankful to you. I watch a YouTuber called How to Dad, and he's from New Zealand, and I can hear that he has an accent, but I can also understand 100% of what he says. So yes, there are different English accents, but it won't prevent you from understanding. From Jan, dear Teacher Bob, I grew up in the north, and I remember once experiencing minus 62 degrees Celsius. I can't imagine that. What is the lowest temperature you can recall in your lifetime? So regular low temperatures, minus 20 to minus 30, a few times like the high, like minus 38, probably minus, I think it went down to minus 41 one night when I was in Quebec, like in the middle of the night. From Shota, hello Bob, what are the enjoyments in the severe winter in Canada besides winter sports? In Japan, lots of people are supposed to enjoy hot springs. So in the winter in my part of Canada, the biggest outdoor activities are snowmobiling, tobogganing, sledding, tubing. People go snowshoeing. People will go up north and go skiing because we have some small mountains in northern Ontario. Those are the common activities. Moaz, hey Bob, been watching your videos for a long time. What inspired you to become an English teacher? God bless you. So I wanted to learn how to make videos. I wanted to learn how to put them on YouTube. I am a language teacher. I teach French, but I am not a native French speaker. So what inspired me was I was driving home and then John Tesh said over 2 billion people are going to be learning English in the world by 2025, or I forget the year. And I thought, well, maybe I'll make a YouTube lesson to teach English. From Unsel, in the town where I grew up, the water supply often froze because of extreme cold. Have you ever experienced that? Thanks a lot. You're awesome. Bye. Yes, in the barn when I was a kid, sometimes the pipes would freeze. And that was very, very annoying because we would use like hot towels and a heater. And sometimes we would use a torch, which is dangerous because you can start a fire. But yes, and there are people who sometimes when it gets cold, if they have a really old house, the pipes will freeze in their house. From Mug of the Olaf, if it's okay with you, Bob, whenever you can you post the picture right by the light back there in the community post? I'm really interested to see how it looks. Yeah, I can definitely do that. No problem. This picture here is a picture of a tree that fell over. It was a big tree. It was there my whole life. And there it. From Judith. Hi, Bob. Salt may hurt the paws of animals. Has Walter been affected by it? Thanks. No, because we don't really use salt on our property. So he has not experienced that. Hasham says, bye-bye, Bobby, sir. See you next week. By the way, Bobby is the nickname, little kid version of the name Bob. So you have Robert is the official name. Bob is the like grown person, adult version of the name. And then Bobby is little kids. I was called Bobby until I was 9 or 10. From Ismail, Bob, with all the salt they use on the roads, how often do they need repairs? In Canada and in any province or state where there's winter, the roads are in horrible condition sometimes after the winter. And believe it or not, it's not from the salt. It's from heaving. So when the ground freezes, the roads kind of can move up and down. So they try to build roads that stay dry underneath. And then snowplows, the blade of the snowplow can be quite destructive sometimes. So I went to Florida once, like 30 years ago, and I was surprised at how beautiful all the roads were. Because in Canada, roads, like if you have a small hole in the road and it fills with water and the water freezes, it makes the hole bigger and you get a pothole. It's just not a good situation. Hey, it's 9:32. I got to go to work. So luckily I don't have to teach until later in the morning. My schedule has shifted, but I do certainly need to go. If you're one of the 223 people watching, don't forget to click that subscribe button there. If you are interested, let me just pull something up here for you for a moment. If you are interested in seeing more of the farm, I'm going to give Jen a shout out here. I'll put that in the chat. So there's a link in the chat YouTube channel. If you like flowers and like seeing the farm, it's not a channel that teaches English. So just to make sure you're aware of that. But if you enjoy things like that, I clicked some wrong buttons here and I'm not on my live stream anymore. There we go. Now I'm back on the live stream. Yeah, if you're interested, have a look at that. I am going to ask you to give a thumbs up to this video. I'm going to let you know that a shorter version of this lesson will come out in 2 days, and you should certainly at least listen to it again. either listen to it or watch it again, or watch parts that you didn't understand, and that will help you remember all of the vocabulary. Anyways, I'm going to go. Bye. Have a great day. You guys are awesome, and I did really enjoy doing this English lesson, and I will do another one next Friday. So I'll see you then.